action or replay task. You will map CPU gen. Shift to the project. By double use. You will maps. CPU can action or replay task. Say task till you do here. CPU gen printing that meta. You with maps shift to the project. Printing that meta to this that nodes. Gen. Here it 6 like. Wow, it's super good.
Hello, Mr. Niran here, welcome back to Hyrule Total War Classic Ultimate, my submod for the day on Nephonems or Ice Cream Man's mod, Hyrule Total War. So we're gonna play some campaigns in the new version of Hyrule Total War Classic Ultimate, released yesterday. Okay, over on modab.com. Okay, so we will play, and if we use hot seat, we go into multiplayer, freeform campaign, and then we can choose either story campaigns, where we have 3 campaigns. We have the freeform campaign with locked alliances, which means it's the freeform campaign, the same as the single player campaign and this campaign. But the difference between this campaign and the single player campaign is that this is hot seat compatible, so you can take control over other factions during gameplay by using the console and writing control and the faction name. If you do that to a faction you do not play, you will take control over the faction, and if you do it, if you write the name of your own faction, you will give over the control to the AI. So it's nice, you can temporarily take control over other factions and such during the campaign, but some of the new scripts are not compatible with it. So, for example, if you do that with Labrina in the middle of a campaign, chances are that Viren will spawn like 6 bugged versions of herself, because there is like script spawning her in one way if the AI is controlling her, and in a different way if someone else is controlling her. Or for example, if you play any of the, I believe, the Fairies of Tarm, the Shrika, the Moblins, Gyarados, and the Kingdom of Hyrule, and the Sora, if you play any of those factions, then she will spawn as the fairy version, and only when she dies will she spawn as Viren of Labrina. But if she has died already for those factions and you take control over Labrina, she might actually end up spawning more than one faction, and because she's using the same name in the game for all spawns, they end up buggy with the wrong picture or the wrong I needed to load the music again. It was too loud. They might end up with the wrong models and pictures and such. I think it can be solved by giving each VRAN a unique name. So that's something I will do in a fix later. It's nothing game breaking. If you play single player or go into multiplayer, freeform campaign, and choose either the freeform campaign, which is the single player campaign used with hot seat. You can play single player in hot seat too, and I recommend doing it because when you play the vanilla single player, if you go into single player and start a campaign, then the follow AI option will actually follow each character very from behind. So you see every character from behind, and it's in my opinion more immersive but slower. So the end turns will take even longer. I believe when you use hot seat multiplayer, the end turns still can take between 2 minutes and 4 minutes. If you use single player, it will be increased because they follow each character. Even if you have fast forward on, they still move slower than they do in hot seat. And in hot seat they do not follow the characters. Instead you zoom in on each capital, like we saw in a few videos I posted recently, and then you see the movements of troops, but you do not follow each and every one of the generals. If you instead go into single player and follow AI, then you will have every single general followed, and that will take a longer time. But it's also more immersive if you like looking at what they are doing. So I almost wanted to play single player just to see all the cool new models up close from behind. But the benefits of using freeform campaign, or go into the story campaigns and select one of these campaigns, freeform campaign, locked alliances, which is the same campaign used with all the alliances locked, the starting alliances, so they will be reinforced each new turn. Hyrule Historia with locked alliances and free alliances. Free alliances is like the vanilla campaign, the freeform campaign, but with Hyrule Historia campaign, so you can ally anyone and declare war on anyone. There are no forced alliances, and locked alliances just that the alliances are forced. So the Hyrule Historia free alliances and the Hyrule Historia locked alliances is the same campaign, used with one of the campaigns enforcing the alliances at start each turn, and the other campaign have free alliances, so you do not need to stay allied to your allies and such. You can declare war on them and kill them off if you want. Freeform campaign locked alliances is such the same as the other two campaigns, but has locked alliances. And the difference between hot seat and single player is that if you follow AI moves, that in single player they zoom in on each general, but in multiplayer they zoom in on each capital, so it's faster. And also that you can switch faction. You can give over the control to the AI and take control over any faction in a hot seat campaign. You can't do that in a single player campaign because the code do not work in single player. Okay, and in multiplayer hot seat you can also I believe go into freeform campaign. You have Hyrule selected at the start. You need to deselect them if you do not want to place them. Then you click on them, but you can't do it unless you have clicked on different factions. So if I click on the Gerudo, then both are selected, both are blinking. So you'll place both of the factions. If you do not want to play both, you just deselect the one you do not want to play. You can play every faction. Okay, but usually I recommend playing one faction in this mod. I enjoy playing more factions too, but especially in the latest version with all the new scripts that are faction specific. For example, if you play as the Kingdom of Hyrule, a certain link will spawn. If you play as Gerudo, another link will spawn, and then the other one won't spawn. But if you play as both, then there's a risk that you get both links, for example. or bugs like many Virans because they lack the name. And the problem with the Viran models are that they are bugged because they are moved off map and then moved spawned, and they use the same name, so that's why they end up buggy. With the Link characters we do not have that issue because each Link has a different name. So that's what I need to add to Viran. I forgot to do that. But Link has unique and try, so he is not buggy. But yeah, you end up with more than one Link. But I believe if you take control over one faction, for example the Kingdom of Hyrule, then play past turn 4 or 5, and then take control over another faction that has Link, for example the Gyarados, the Sora, the Udona province, the Lenure province, Labrina Refreme, the Shaker Kader, Kingdom of Icana, but they have an evil Link, so that doesn't count. It's only the good Links. Okay, Majora has the evil Link too. Huron has the good Link, and Vistrope has the good Link too, and Sant has the evil Link, and Midna has the good Link. So if you use one of the good factions with Link, you will replace all the other good Links in the game. But if you control in hot seat, you control all of them, you will have all of them spawn. But I believe that if they spawn after the other one, they will remove the other one, because they remove the other Links when they spawn. So if you play as the Kingdom of Hyrule, you get Hyrule Link there at the first turn. If you then spawn Link with Gyarados, I believe that Link will remove a Link for the Kingdom of Hyrule. So that's the problem. If you do want Link for Hyrule, you can't play both unless you wait until after turn 4 or 5 before using the command control Gyarados, for example. Then you will take control of the Gyarados and they will spawn. There's a risk that the Gyarados might... No, there is a risk that... no, the Link only spawns at turn 4, I believe, or 5. So if you take control of the faction after turn 4 or 5, then he won't spawn, and as such won't replace the Kingdom of Hyrule's Link. But if you control both prior to the spawn, the last one spawning will be the Link in the game. So Hyrule is the first faction played, so they would lose Link, and then Gyarados is the second one, and then we have the Sora that follows this order here all the way to the last one, which is Majora. So in essence that means the last evil Link would be Majora, and because evil Link and good Link will exist at the same time, so Majora, Sant, and the Kingdom of Icana is the evil Link. Majora is the one that is played last. With the good guys, it's the order of the Visrobes. You would end up with the order having Link if you played everyone from the get-go. So you need to wait until after turn 4 for if you want to keep Hyrule's Link and play as the others too. Okay, manage your cities. So the end turn times in this mod are very long, even when we do not show the map, so it's probably better to have show CPU moves on. In hot seat the movements are very fast by the AI, while in single player they move really slow. If you do not have fast forward on, they move in normal speed, which is extremely slow. And if you have fast forward on, they move slightly faster, like this. In hot seat it's like this, so it's way better in that sense, but they do not zoom in on the characters, so you do not get as good a view on the heroes. It's unchecked passwords, no time limit. So I had a poll on ModDB which asked what faction is your favorite, and Hyrule won easily. It has like 42 votes today, and the two that are behind Hyrule, I believe the Labrina Refreme and the Labrina Refreme 14 votes, and Force of the Twilight and the Queen Midna 14 votes. Sant has 2 votes, so together that means Force of the Twilight has 16 votes. They win against Labrina, but the Kingdom of Hyrule had 42, and then after Labrina I believe that we had like Dark Knight Legion at 9 votes. Dark Knight Legion And then we had the Oduna province at 7 votes, I believe. So those are the 5 most popular factions right now. I wanted to play as a Midna or Sant campaign, but Hyrule won, and I was gonna restart my Hyrule campaign too. I did actually play a Kingdom of Hyrule campaign back in 2019. I started it during the summer when I released this mod for the first time. I thought I was finished with the mod back then. I was wrong. Found bugs and I found things to improve. And only now do I think it's finished. But it will still get probably a music update at some point that is save game compatible. Also the issues in the game, if there are issues like the Varen hot seat issue, then yeah, it will be solved at some point. But it's not important right now because I'm not gonna play hot seat as many factions. I'm gonna play as Hyrule, so then it doesn't matter. I have added all the standalone video packs for the campaign, by the way. If you'll watch the video, we will play the game. If you play on very hard difficulty, they will be very aggressive and say no to most alliance proposals. If you play on easy difficulty, then they will be willing to aid their allies and such, and I like that. So we will play on easy difficulty. They are still aggressive, but allies will aid you, and it's easier to get alliances and such. So we will try easy difficulty just to have allies help each other, and yeah, I just want to try that. This time I played on very hard previously, but it's very difficult, so let's try easy difficulty, and medium in battle, of course. If you have anything higher, they will just get bonuses, their units, and easy is boring, then we have bonuses probably. Okay, show CPU moves on, manage all cities. Okay, hold 30 regions to win, including Gyarados Desert, 5 turns, and Old Moblin Kingdom, 5 turns. The Old Moblin Kingdom, that's the area of demise, the capital of the Moblins. This faction led by King Ganon. We need to hold their capital for 5 turns, and Gyarados Desert, we need to hold for 5 turns. It's the area of Ashnon, the capital of the Gyarados, and their leader is Twinroa in the beginning of the game. They have Ganondorf 2 and others, but Ganondorf spawns on turn 86, I believe. So he's a late game hero. We are controlling Kingdom of Hyrule, the Kingdom of Hyrule. So their leader is Princess Nylin Nohansen, Zelda 1. Okay, leader Princess Zelda 1. Weaknesses: has no true superior strengths in any specialty. Balanced selection of units for all situations. So we are controlling Central Hyrule. 3 before Ganon, if I understand that correctly. Main color violet. Religion strict goddess worship. Culture civilized. Rival factions Gyarados and Moblins. Yeah. Cordial factions. Friendly factions Gorons and Oduna province. You can also count the Shaker Cadder. They might betray us, and the Order of the Visra, but they also might betray us. And Ukka, the Ukka Goddess faction, they might also betray us. Strengths, weaknesses, and abilities. Generalist, the Kingdom of Hyrule feels a selection of soldiers that cover all disciplines. Dominant Empire, Kingdom of Hyrule begins the campaign with notably more territory than any other faction. Planesfighter, Kingdom of Hyrule excels at combat on open plains. So I have a problem reading. I'm using a TV as a screen, first of all. It's a bit far away. I'm sitting in the sofa, like 2 or 3 meters away from the TV. Also, and I think 2 meters, at least 2.5. And then I have the video in the background, also making it more difficult to read. Planesfighter, the Kingdom of Hyrule excels at combat on open plains. Universal tyrants. Many races dislike Hylian mentality and zealotry. It's harder for the Kingdom of Hyrule to make alliances in the campaign because of this. Okay. The Hylians are a humanoid race, characterized by their iconic pointed ears. They are pretty much elves, mistaken for humans. Okay. Without a doubt, they are considered the dominant race of Hyrule, and almost everything in the land is politically linked to their empire in some way. They are reasonable but self-important race of beings. They are a reasonable but self-important race of beings. This self-entitlement is often attributed to the ancient religious texts of many races, pointing to the Hylians as the race closest to the goddesses. Though even older texts points to the ancient Ukka as being the first race. A race so old that they served as mediators between the ancient Hylians and the goddesses, regardless of having divine rights or not. Hylians possess the will and the power to enact their desire to command and control the aspects of Hyrule through both culture and military might. Kingdom of Hyrule, without a doubt, has one of the largest standing armies, soldiers trained in a wide variety of combat skills. This diversity gives the Hylians a fairly well-balanced force and allows them to devise fair counters for most situations they are put in. This board cover of their bases true means that the Hylians don't exactly excel in this board cover of their bases too means the Hylians don't exactly excel in any particular type of combat, so they rarely have a superior edge over an enemy force unless it's through numbers. Regardless, the Hylians are a powerful foe with an even more powerful sense of duty and loyalty to their kingdom. Okay. No battle time limit will be on. Manage your cities so CPU moves. Strength balance selection of units for all situations. Weaknesses has no true superior strength and any specialty. So once again, the leader is Princess Nylin, known as Zelda 1 of the Kingdom of Hyrule. This is the captain of the faction, and this is a knight, and this is the castle guard unit. Maybe this is the old general. I believe a golden one was made the general later. This is probably the one used in the beginning because most factions show the general here. We'll check the other factions of the game. So we have the Gerudo, led by Twin Roa, the fusion between two witches, Common Kotek. They have strength unmatched cavalry archers and dismounted archers. So they have the best cavalry archers and dismounted archers in the game. Weaknesses lacks strong armor and infantry. Okay, and this is their general, so most of the time they have the general here. We have the Gorons, led by Darunia, Sage of Fire. Powerful infantry and unmatched siege weaponry, so they are like the dwarves of Lord of the Rings, pretty much. Weaknesses lacks archers and fast cavalry. They are an infantry-based faction with really good siege equipment. Alright, and then we have the Sora's Dominion. Here's their general. This is Sora infantry, basic infantry unit. This is a mage unit. Okay, highly disciplined and organized troops with supreme morale. Weaknesses. Forces are slow on land and lack good durability. Leader is King Farkos. Alright. By the way, the Gorons, I believe this might be the general or captain, and this is Goron Ram unit. I believe that could be the general now, I'm not sure. And this is a minor unit. Okay, we have the Kokiri. The leaders, the Great Deck Tree is guarding the forest. Okay, and then large groups of well-supplied soldiers that do not tire easily is their strength. Weaknesses, horrible morale and poor combat training. And this is their general, the Korok being. Then we have a female slingshot here, I believe, and a guard. I don't remember what they were named. One of their better infantry units. Okay, we have the Goma, led by Sulcaris the Fallen Sage, or Sulcaris the Ugly. She is her ugly form in the beginning of the campaign. Okay. Strengths: massive swarms of overwhelming troops that can outmaneuver with ease. Weaknesses: units are small, weak, and easily kill them in a fight. Most of them. Then they have like really good giant spiders in the late game, but in the beginning they have really small swarms of smaller spiders and other creatures. They are Swarm faction. We have the Oduna province, a province of the Kingdom of Hyrule, an independent province. Okay, their leader is Mayor Bow. So they are a province under the kingdom. So they have Zelda as their true leader, but Mayor Bow is the independent ruler of this province. Then we have their general here, captain, and we have a unit of farmer archers and rangers. They have really good range units and such really poor infantry. They have the best cavalry actually in the game, the best heavy cavalry. Okay. Strengths: breeds the fastest and toughest cavalry in all of Hyrule. Weaknesses: soldiers are mostly poor and unskilled farmers. So yeah, their infantry is really bad and their cavalry is really good, and their archers are almost as good as the Gyarados. Almost at the same level. So it's the infantry that is not good. Okay, and then we have the Lanayur province. The leader is Queen Rutala, the good. Here's their captain, I believe. We have archer unit and a unit of, I believe, guards, something. Okay, strengths: access to ocean, vast ruby mines, and well-funded soldiers. They are rich. Weaknesses: standing armies prefer comfortable attire and wear little armor. Yeah, this is one of the more peaceful factions in the game. The only one more peaceful is Huron, a pacifist society. So Lanayur province have mostly conscripts or armed civilians in the beginning of the game. So they are really weak in the beginning. They have many troops, but very weak troops. Okay, and then we have the Eke tribes. They do not look like this anymore. This is the first roster NEP did, and it remade them, but didn't change the UI, so they have a different looking battle. They look cooler. I believe these models had an issue where they had half their body below ground, so he had to remake them and used fan art on Deviant art, I believe, to make the new ones. They are much better looking. Then he did a third roster for 4.6, which is even better looking. Okay, so they are led by the Deck King, and this is the old general used by the general on the map, by the way, and some old units. Strengths: affinity for the land gives them an edge in exploiting terrain bonuses. Weaknesses: poor durability and easy to scare because of their small size. Okay, so they are really small. I don't like playing as the Deki Scrubs, but they are fun to fight in the game. Okay, we have the Moblins led by King Ganon. Here's their general with the cape and the skull. We have the grunts and we have the mobs of Moblins. I added a unit based on the captain too, named Armored Grunt, because I thought it was too cool not to be a unit. But this is the general. The difference between the general and the captain is that the general has a cape and some extra detail that the captain doesn't have. Okay. So strengths: superior brute force and aggressive soldiers. Oh, and by the way, they used to be in horde formation with most of their troops. The problem with horde formation is that they get stuck when reinforcing armies on the battlefield. So if you fought a battle as the Moblins or anyone allied to them, and they reinforce you in battle, then half the unit would get stuck on the other side of the line into the battlefield, and they would be stuck there and wouldn't be able to enter the battle, and you would have to fight the battle without some of the units because they get stuck when entering. That's an issue of the horde formation. I removed the horde formation from all the units in Warcraft Total War, and in the latest release of Hyrule Total War Classic Ultimate I decided to remove the horde formation too from all units in the game, including the Moblins and the Twilight insects. So they used the square formation instead, because with the square formation they never get stuck when going into a battlefield, but with the horde formation they get stuck and usually can't be used in the battle because they need to enter before the player can take control of them, and the AI just can't use them either unless they have entered, so you end up with a bunch of units not being present in battle because of the bug with the horde formation. I understand why NEP wanted the horde formation to fit flying insects, and it fits the Moblin horde like orcs type grunts here. We have pigs. They are pretty much the orcs of Hyrule. So you can see why the horde formation would fit, as they are supposed to not be disciplined and fight like barbarians and such, but the square formation just works better in the game, so that's been changed. They are using the square formation now, so they will never bug out when entering a battlefield. Okay, so they are led by King Ganon. Okay, cool faction. And then we have the Dark Knight Legion, the strongest faction in the game, at least if played by the AI. They almost always win. They have really good defense and hit points. The leader is Salenbar, and their official leader, but their secret leader is Vati. Fortunate. Okay, soldiers strengths. Soldiers don toughest armor, the best weaponry, the best training in all of Hyrule. Weaknesses: army completely lacks in ranged units and cavalry, and that was the case in the older releases, but I added some cavalry from 4.6 and some ranged units. They have a basic javelin throwing mercenaries, like the Tuke mercenaries and Suna mercenaries, but the Sunas, they are crossbowmen. So they can hire Suna crossbowmen and Tuke javeliners, and then they also have their own like hoplite like javelin throwers. But yeah, their range units suck. The Suna crossbowmen are the best ones. And then they have cavalry, the Masura cavalry, which crashes in battle almost all the time if you do not use the Medieval Total War engine or Project 2. So I suggest using it when playing this game, especially on Windows 10. Because on Windows 10 you need it in order not to crash with all the Gaians, all the spiders, and that unit, and the shadow bloats of the Force of the Twilight. But if you instead play on Windows 7 or Windows XP or Windows Vista, then it's not as bad. Then you can play with AI.batfile. But against the shadow bloats of the Force of the Twilight and Masura of the Dark Knight Legion, you still need the tool, otherwise they will crash even on an older computer. But the other units won't crash on an older computer. Okay, and yeah, they had a Masura cavalry. It's like a two-legged cavalry, and then they have gotten a new Lionel cavalry unit, which is like a Centaur unit from 4.6, and a mercenary unit, and then they have their own Rebonax, which is like a heavy Dark Knight cavalry unit. So they have cavalry and they have range units, but they do not have very good range units, and the bad thing with the cavalry is that they are very few numbers. Okay, and then we have the Lissalfoss, led by Narded White, or Queen Narded White. Strengths: fast running speed, allows for brutal charges and flanking tactics. Weaknesses: lacks good armor and professional training. Okay, so they are like an Aztec-inspired faction, fighting the Children of the Forest and the Deku Scrubs. And we have the Labrina Refreme, led by Queen Ambi. Good. Or Queen Ambi. Beloved Queen Ambi, okay. Strength. Access to advanced technology, notably gunpowder. So they are really good in the late game, these guys. They have a lot of gunpowder units, steam tanks, hand cannoneers, gunners, pistolmen, etc. The only ones with guns. Weaknesses: horrible melee skill when guns fail to down enemies. Yeah, they have really bad infantry, with the exception of the mechs, which is a late game unit. They also have some cavalry now, they didn't in the past. They have the Aquadongus and they have the Blue Dragoons, which is Blue Bears, with pistolmen mounted on top of them. Okay. And we have the Fairies of Tarm, led by the Fairy Queen. Okay, soldiers require no upkeep and are ageless strengths. So they have free soldiers. Their basic soldiers are free of charge, which is really good, and they are very numerous. They have really bad stats. Weaknesses: soldiers are frail in most regards, especially in melee. Yeah, they added some 4.6 units that are melee, so at least they have medium soldiers, swordsmen and such now. They have medium troops and light troops. Then they have some really good golems that are elite cavalry, heavy cavalry, like elephant cavalry. And they have also some really good range units, like great fairies and such that shoot dangerous projectiles. They are like mages, just very slow mages. They are slow when they move, fly slowly, but they are really good when they hit their enemies. They have really good projectiles. Okay. Then we have the Stalfos, the undead, led by Lord Caso, the harsh. Strengths: undead soldiers are completely immune to all psychological effects. Yeah, they and the Kingdom of Hyrule undead are the only ones that do not break in battle. Weaknesses: soldiers are slow and lack durability. Yeah, most of them are slow, not all of them. Okay, and this faction is very unique to play as. It has a necromancer script and such. It's very unique. When you kill enemy troops in battle, you will spawn troops of that type or from that region in the nearest area, nearest settlement, as long as you have a necromancer placed there. In the nearest settlement with a necromancer. And I believe necromancers, you start with one. And if he is killed, you get a new one, I believe, later in the campaign. You can't recruit the necromancers, but you can get them through a script, I believe. So it's a very scripted campaign. As for the others, I have some scripts added by myself, but there is no real heavily scripted faction here. Shreka is a heavily scripted faction too. Played some episodes on the 2021 release last year before I cancelled it. You have their general here. Here I have their Shreka monks and the soldiers of Aghanim infantry. Okay, so highly trained assassin style soldiers is their strength. They are really good. Weakness is very few numbers. They have very few numbers, but are really good stat wise. And they are like a ninja organization of the Kingdom of Hyrule, an independent organization. And they have the feature that you can play the shadow stance or the battle stance. If you play the battle stance, you take over Kakariko and play the game like normal. But you do not declare war on Hyrule. You kind of get it without declaring war, but chances are they will invade you, or the Gorons will invade you, or the Sora will invade you at one point or another. If you play the shadow stance, you do not take over the area. Instead, you spawn armies a little bit here and there during the campaign on certain turns, and then you can conquer areas for the Kingdom of Hyrule, and one turn later they will belong to the Kingdom of Hyrule, so you act like their ninja organization and conquer for them. So that's how I play the game in 2022. But if you play the battle stance, you play to conquer, so then you will fight Hyrule and others sooner or later. Okay, we have the Kingdom of Icana, the cursed Kingdom of Icana. They were supposed to have a script where they could switch between the Mayora fate and the goddess worship fate, and when they switched they would get their alive versions, because they are cursed faction. They are like a monkey humanoid faction, but they are cursed with undeath because they had been tricked by Mayora in the past and committed crimes against the goddesses of Hyrule, which led to the goddesses cursing the kingdom into undeath, and they were banished to Termina, an alternate reality, and now they have arrived from Termina through cracks in the ground, and they are still undead. There is a feature in the game where you can turn 3 heroes back into their life forms: King Igos Tucana, the leader himself, his daughter Princess Gomez, and Captain Keith, or Skull Keith as he is known, as undead. If you take all 5 Icanian areas and you take the capital of the kingdom of the Church of Mayora, and you kill Mayora himself, then you get one turn later the alive versions of these characters, and you will lose the undead ones, and they will spawn with some alive troops too, but you will still be able to only recruit the undead troops, because I couldn't add new events connected to the script, and without that I can't really make any script work with, the feature I wanted, where the undead troops would be replaced with the alive troops whenever Icana has changed religion or something. Okay, strength. Superior soldiers in most regards. The Kingdom of Icana is pretty much a similar faction as Hyrule, as in they use trebuchets and they use normal soldiers, but they also have a really good bombard, like a bit of magic projectile that is really good, and they have some really good units, including chariots. If you use them to the EOP tool or the medieval tool or engine or project tool, then chariot units will not have their riders visible. If you do not use the tool and play with the AUI.bat file, they will be visible, but then it will crash on Windows 10 against many units and giants. Okay, so yeah, they are good. They are like the Kingdom of Hyrule, but undead and have better troops. Weakness is poor economy to train troops because of barren homelands. So yeah, they have bad economy, not a lot of resources in their areas. And then we have the forces of the Twilight under Queen Midna. Here we have the general, we have the basic Twilight infantry soldier, and we have the bone mold monks, the basic soldiers of sand. These were the basic ones of Midna. Okay, strengths. Troops have a more notable psychological impact on enemies. Weaknesses. Troops are slow and uncomfortable and tire easily in Hyrule's alien environment. They have they are not as effective in Hyrule as they are in the Twilight Realm. And there are only 4 areas in the Twilight Realm where they start. So you need to fight Prince Sant, who is leading the other forces of the Twilight faction, and then when you have won as Midna, you will be able to invade Hyrule, and then you will fight in Hyrule, where they have less good, they tire more easily and such. Okay, so the leader is Princess Midna, but she's pretty much queen at the start here. Okay, so yeah, that's Midna, and you can also lose the Civil War and become the Imp Midna. Then you play as Imp Midna and 4 repentant units, and will be joined by Link and 1 bodyguard unit. And you will have to recruit mercenaries in order to conquer areas in Hyrule. Then you will have to build up your troops and such, and then when you're strong enough you can go back to the portal by taking Arbeitergrounds from Sant, and then taking the portal and go into the portal. It shows up when you hold Arbeitergrounds, and then you will be able to go back to the Twilight Realm and kill Sant and take back the area. And after that, that would be restored to Queen Midna again. And such, you will also get any heroes of Sant that are still alive. Okay, except Sant, because he needs to be dead. Okay, forces of the Twilight under King Sant. So if you play as Sant, he will be Prince Sant. But if they spawn as the AI, he will be King Sant, which is Sant with his helmet here. He has the same army pretty much, but it's divided. So Midna starts with mostly humanoids like females and constructs like the Twilight infantry, while Sant has also the bone mold monks, I believe, are unique to Sant, this unit, while this is a generally trad with both, and the Twilight infantry is also trad, but I believe Midna has the sorceresses from the start, unlike Sant, and she has soul nurses, she has like Cargoroks, and she has Twilight spiders, and Sant on the other hand has Cargoroks too. He has the Twilight infantry, but he has bone mold monks, which Midna do not have. And then he has like shadow insects, which Midna do not have, and shadow bloats, and he has some other stuff that she do not have, like the shadow messengers and shadow assassins. When Midna has won and Sant has surrendered, she will be able to recruit Sant's troops too. And when Midna has surrendered, Sant will be able to recruit Midna's troops too. But before the Civil War is over, they are limited to their own half of the roster. Okay. So if Sant is controlled by the player, you will fight Midna as Prince Sant, and then when you win the battle and conquer the areas, you'll be able to go to Hyrule through the portal, and you will remain Prince Sant. if you play a different faction than the Force of the Twilight, then King Sant will spawn with all his heroes and huge stacks, but only if he wins the war. If Midna wins, she will spawn instead. Okay, so that's the difference, and King Sant has a helmet unlike Prince Sant. We have the Order of the Wizrobe, their general here, and here we have a Geomancer unit throwing stones, and an Aquamancer unit throwing like water at enemies. And then we have the leader, Nostrum, Mage, Pyromancer, throwing fire at enemies. So it's a mage faction. You have like birds, magical birds. The real leader is Goddess Hylia, or the false goddess. But Nostrum is their official Wizrobe leader. Strength has access to powerful ranged spellcasters. Yeah, it's an army. It's a faction of mages. Weaknesses: vulnerable and easy to kill in hand-to-hand fight. In a hand-to-hand fight. Yeah, they had really sucky infantry. I believe I added the armored acolytes from 4.6 in 2021 or earlier. So they have some good ones, but they are also casters. They are not true infantry. They are, I believe, medium infantry. And then now they have a new unit, the Wizrobe Highland soldiers or something. Wizrobe Highland Knights maybe. And they are actually good. Okay, so this faction is also cool. And then we have the River Sora, led by King Sarusef. We have their Manhunters, basic unit here. Their best range unit, the Cyclops Q, a unique projectile, and we have their like Viking Raider unit called, I believe, Raiders. No, Geoswords actually. They are Geoswords. It's like a Viking faction. You have like the Spearman, Axeman, and Giant Berserker type range units here. Fighting both melee and ranged, but they are a ranged unit. The one on the portrait here is Princess Sukuf. So King Sarusef, I believe, is the leader, but Princess Sukuf is the smarter one, so she is like the unofficial leader and chosen as the one here. In the campaign, I believe Sarusef, the king, her father, counts as the leader. Okay, so this faction is also cool. It was underpowered in the past because it's a Viking-based faction with like axes, spearmen, javelin throwers, no archers, and yeah, they had some cavalry, but only light melee cavalry, no heavy cavalry, and yeah, they weren't very good. But I added some unused units, like for example the Solar Catapult and the Biguktu Broodmothers. So you have a catapult now, so you can easily attack walls and can besiege a settlement immediately. The Biguktu Broodmothers are also a siege engine, like a cannonball. It's a giant monster shooting nuts from its mouth, and the nuts work just like cannons. So they have two good siege engines now, and then they have a new cavalry unit, the same as the other, but now it the ability to throw spears at enemies. So it's like the Outrunners but mounted, called Outrunner Dragoons or something. Okay, so that unit is really effective. So they have some new units. As for new units, I believe that Kingdom of Hyrule have the Skulltula Spiders as a new unit now too. And the Sheikah Kader have the Sheikah Protectors from 4.6. So new unit is a unique unit with a unique projectile. Kingdom of Hyrule also has access to that unit from the area of Kakariko. And as for other new units, Stalfos, Ferris Torm, Brinner Shreem, Gisselfoss, Legion, Marblens, Deca Tribes, Lanir Province, Udona Province has a new unit. They have the Elder Goats, like giant heavy goat cavalry that we are also not in use for some reason. Have them re-enabled. I've also changed this faction a bit. So for example, in the older release you could get war wagons immediately from any area. Now you need a 5th tier of a settlement in order to get the war wagons, because they are too good to be that easily available. So they are really good in the late game, but are not as good in the early game anymore. And the Elder Goats is also a late game elite unit added. So they have two elite units now that are monsters in the late game, but in the early game they have none. Okay, previously they had the war wagons, which is like a unit of farmers riding in a wagon and throwing bottles that explode, so pretty much a unit of mounted grenadiers throwing Molotov cocktails at enemies pretty much. And that unit was so annoying to fight that I decided to limit it to the 5th tier of a settlement. Okay, but it's still needed against giants like the Moblin giants Girahim and Demise or Ganon. If you want to take, I believe some of them can be killed by archers and such, but Girahim is pretty much immortal against archers and javeliners and such. So you needed a unit like the Grenadiers or the war wagons to take out Girahim, Studona province. So it just means you need to wait until you have the 5th tier for settlement, so you can recruit the unit, and it takes 5 turns to recruit. Okay, so we'll wait a bit before we get the unit, then you can take out Girahim and others. Okay, so blitzing the Moblins is possible, but you will get into trouble when you face Girahim. Okay, besides those units, I believe the Sora also have a new unit, the Sora Spire. It was also not in use. And the Fairies have the Perception Ward. Both of them are like the Labrina Gunner Posts and the Goron Bone Platforms and the Kokiri Barricades. They are the Fairy and Sora versions of those units. So the Fairy unit, the Perception Ward, it's a ward that can't move, that shoots like machine gun pink projectiles against enemies, really effective, powerful beam, shooting multiple shots at enemies that approach. And then we have the Sora Spire, and it's a similar unit, one unit, static one, with Sora mages shooting electric balls at enemies that approach. Okay, then we have the minor factions, the Suna, led by Master Vorday. I believe Master Vorday, and they are minor factions. Sabrosha, led by Rosa the Heart. Another minor faction, Tuke, led by Tylo. Princess Tylo, and then we have the Huskus Remnants, led by the Empress. They also have the Giant hero Palagard. This faction was made up by Unday Nephilim, or Ice Cream Man, the original creator of the mod. They have really good giants, but the problem with these minor factions is that they are really bad. They have very few troops, but they can hire any mercenary in the games. If you travel the map, you will be able to get any mercenary anywhere. But if you do not do that, they are limited to their small rosters. For example, the Huskus have 2 giants that are really good, but then they have only infantry units, 3 different infantry units. The Tuke, they have infantry and they have cavalry and they have range units, but their focus is on range units. They have mostly javelin throwers and slingshots. Then they have some really basic infantry, and they have a good cavalry unit that is both spearmen, melee cavalry and javelin throwing cavalry. It's really good actually. That's the only good Tuke unit. Then we have the Sabrosians. They have only infantry and cavalry. Their cavalry is actually really good, but it's melee cavalry. They are pretty much defenseless against giants. They have no range units. Suna, they have crossbowmen and spearmen. And they have some Suna cigarette siege engines that are really good. Like mounted engines, like Suna crossbowmen mounted on an engine, like a really slow vehicle that they ride. You can drive over enemy troops and you can shoot at enemies. And then they have a siege ballista too. So they're the only smaller faction with an actual siege engine. And then we have the Huronians, they are pacifists. They have civilians and they have Huron mystics, worship in nature, and then they have the soldiers to protect them. So they are really basic. If you place them, you get Link to he spawns with 2 units of knights, swordsman mounted recruits actually, or 3. His bodyguard plus 3 other units, or his bodyguard plus 2 units. But even so, they are really, really weak. But they have good relations there, and I added in to every campaign. I've added enforced relations each time. So factions that are supposed to be friendly with each other will always be friendly with each other each new turn, despite any war. But you can still fight anyone and kill them. It's just that they will have maximum relations to prevent AI from, for example, if you play as the King of Hyrule, are allied to the Gorons, Shake the Cadder, the Order of the Visrobe, the Uka, the Oduna province, and the Kukiri, and then you're supposed to have good relations with the line of your province and the Sora, but they decide to invade you because you're not allied, and that they try to prevent by giving everyone really good relations that should have good relations. By the way, the Gerudo are now allied to the Lystalfos from the start. Previously they were not allied, but had good relations. And the undead Stalfos are allied to the Spider Faction, the Goma, from the start, because in Hyrule story they were allied. It's the only alliance between them. The Goma can't make diplomats, of course the Stalfos can. Okay, and then the Huronians, yeah, that's the pacifists, and then we have the Uka. By the way, I didn't read about these factions. Okay, River Sora. Leader is Princess Sukif, as I said, strength, widespread and feral. They have a unique script, by the way, they're really cool. They do not recruit troops from their cities, instead they recruit troops from rivers. So you build a spawning pool in a city, and then they spawn troops. And if you build, for example, spawn pool 1, then you get really basic troops. Spawn pool 2 means better troops, and then it goes all the way up until spawn pool 5. But they spawn in rivers near the settlement, so it will take a while to move the troops to the area where you want them to. It's very different from other factions. It would be cool to place them. They have a unique script. Twilight have unique scripts connected to the Civil War. If one wins, the heroes of the other will join and such. They will invade Hyrule as the AI, and Midna will turn it in. They have a lot of scripts too, and all of them are old. The Twilight scripts and the Kingdom of Hyrule, they spawn in the Hyrule story campaign. They spawn late game. That's old. And the Necromancer script of the Stalfos is old. The Shika Shadow Stamp's Battle Stance is old. However, the Twilight scripts have improved them a lot. They didn't work properly in the older releases. I've done a lot of modding on the Twilight factions to make them work better and properly. I hope they will work perfectly in this version. They haven't before. They worked good in the Twilight Realm in the Civil War, but they never really invaded Hyrule. I believe Sant invaded, but not Midna. Okay, if Midna went into the portal, she would never be able to move. Okay. The Visrobe have a unique script too. So if you place priests outside of settlement, you will take it over. The AI can't use it, but the player can. So you end up conquering half the map by just sending out priests everywhere, or bishops. So that's their unique feature. Okay, the Suna. Leader was Lord Warday or Master Warday. Strengths, fine crafted weaponry and vast wealth in gold. They are rich. Weakness is small standing army. So yeah, they have a really small army, but bigger than in previous releases. I mean, prior to 2019 they had only 3 units. Now they have 6 units. Okay, Subrosion. Leader was Rose the Horse. Access to vast minerals and ores. Extremely xenophobic is their weakness. They are really aggressive against Huron and others. But yeah, they are rich. They start in a very wealthy area. Then with Tuke, they are quite poor actually. Strength none really, except that cavalry unit is pretty good. It's a new unit for this submod. Weakness is extremely stupid and gullible. Yeah, they easily are abused or used by others like Librina. Leader Tylo. The older units are available as mercenaries. In the older list from 2021, they couldn't get the cavalry. I mean, they could from Crescent Island, but anyone could get their cavalry from Crescent Island. 2 areas on an Eyre, small Eyre. But it's on the other side of Labrina. You need to go through Labrina to get to that Eyre. So most factions would never go there. But their Tuki units are available as mercenaries in many areas on the map. And now the cavalry unit is available too, because they want cavalry to be available for factions that do not have cavalry. For example, the Huskers, I said, didn't have cavalry, and the Huronians, except Link's spawn, So yeah, now they can get cavalry if they go to Tuki areas and hire Godongo jockeys there. Okay. Tuki, we read about them. The Huskies remnants. Leader is the Empress. Hero is Palagard, the hero. Strength feels good warrior. This is wrong. I should have fixed this. Feels good warrior infantry is what it should have said. I thought they were cavalry or light cavalry because they were bigger than normal cavalry, but they are infantry. So this text is wrong. It's been wrong ever since 2019. I forgot to fix it. Weaknesses lacking in ranged units and siege. Yeah, and they lack in cavalry too, except their two heroes. Leader, the Empress, yeah. Ronins, leaders may rule the horse. Strengths feels good infantry. Weaknesses has a very small selection of units. Yeah, civilians, they are worthless. Mystics are almost as worthless, but they are good for morale. To improve the morale of the soldiers when they fight, and the soldiers are basic troops. They are like medium. So they are really bad troops actually. They are dependent on mercenaries. Pacifist society, we have the Ukka, they are led by the Sage of Time, the first Sage of Time, Demoko. But Ukko is shown here. She is also the mother of Link, by the way. She used to be known as Queen Sirok in the past and looked more like a human. She's been changed, turned into an Ukka after ascending the heavens. And yeah, she do not look human anymore. She is Link's mother. Okay, weaknesses, no known weakness. Ukko is the hero here because that's the only one we have a model of. There were models for Ligier, Sage of Time, and Demoko, First Sage of Time, but they were never released. This one I managed to do out of the general. We removed the helmet and we removed some other gear, and then we changed the color of the blue eyes and blue beams to balls to pink like she's supposed to have. So we managed to get Ukko, but not Demoko and Ligier. Demoko and Ligier are in the game as generals, but have generic generals in battle, unfortunately. Okay, so this faction strengths, divine, godlike powers, and technology. Weaknesses, no known weakness. Well, their only weakness is that they need religious worship in areas before they can recruit any units. They build churches to recruit their units, and churches of the goddesses, and they can't recruit units unless they have enough of the goddess faith in the settlement. So that's why their campaign is slow. You can expand easily with your good troops, but can't get more troops easily because you need to increase the religion first. I was never a fan of that type of system, but I added it here because otherwise it would be OP, and it was supposed to be in there for both the Ukka and the Miura. So Miura, of course, is led by Dark God Miura himself. Strengths, the Dark God Miura. Weaknesses, no known weakness. And I didn't have the religious stuff here. I had it in the past, but it was unfair because the Ukka have priests with maximum stats, while the Miura faction wouldn't have it, so it was unfair. So they need to only take areas that they can get their units, can get demons from any area, then they get other troops based on locale, for example. They get Hylians from Hylian areas and Ordonians from Ordonian areas, etc., etc. There are a few factions that are not available to the Church of Miura, but most of them are. Okay. We are gonna play as the Kingdom of Hyrule. Now I've spoken way more than I was supposed to do. Didn't plan on going through every faction, but we've had a new release. I wanted to speak about them. Let's start the campaign, and we will watch the intro video. It's 27 minutes long. We'll still watch it. I won't speak though, or read the text. You will read it for yourself. It's a nice intro. I made it in January 2021. It's using the HD quality now. we will skip that. The problem is that the music was too low, so I will need to exit the campaign and restart. But we will increase the music, of course. You can't have that low music. It's no nice watching a video and you can hardly hear the sound. It's just not possible. So we'll exit. Can't pause the recording. I'm using the NVIDIA Shadow Play Recorder. Doesn't have any pause feature. I'm not streaming the game. I'm not playing live. I'm recording it offline. So we need to film the loading screen, and we also need to film the menu and such. Can't pause it. I don't want to restart the recording either. Could of course end it here as they divide into 20-minute videos anyway. I will have to yeah, we will end it here. See you soon.